Hi everyone. I've been inspired to share some of my stories from personal experience over the years, and some of them may seem a little bit strange or a little bit weird and wacky, but my intention really is to reach out to people out there that may need a little bit of help or advice, or just have somebody else maybe with a similar experience to them, because I am aware I'm not an island, and although a lot of this stuff is very personal to me, I do feel like now is the time to start sharing some of this. And so I hope that you will join me in watching or listening to some of these, because even if it's not really relevant to you, it may just sow a seed or open up your mind or just give you room to question things, because nobody really knows fully what goes on around them. I mean, we're told kind of one set of views when we grow up, and yeah, some people live their lives that way, and that's fine. You know, we've all got our own journeys that we're on. But then sometimes we just experience things that are a little bit out the box that we can't understand or we can't explain. And yeah, we don't always have somebody to speak to about it, or we're embarrassed, or we don't want to be ridiculed. And I know for me, when I started having some very unusual experiences in my 20s, I, you know, yeah, I did have a couple of people I could speak to, but I was still very reluctant, certainly with family members, because it's very hard to talk about something that's, you know, well, let's just say that is different, because people do not always accept what is different. And I know things are changing nowadays, and so it's a bit easier to talk about these things. So I hope you like these series of mini podcasts that I'm going to be doing. If it does resonate with you and you'd like to hear more, then obviously let me know. I'm going to start it off now. I don't know how this is going to work out, but it's also therapy for me, because I feel like I need to share some of these things, and hopefully it will help somebody out there, if not, you know, even if it's just one person. So they're all different subjects that I'm going to share, but the one I'm going to share tonight, but before I do, just a little bit of housekeeping. My videos and recordings are all meant to empower people. It's not meant to bring fear. And I just want you to basically listen with an open mind. That's all I ask. And I will finish this recording and every recording on a positive, because I do feel that even if things can seem a little bit out there and scary, or that everything happens for a reason. And I've learned over the years, looking back now, I mean, it's been about 30 odd years, over 30 years actually, that I've been having experiences, and I've got accustomed to it now, and I have a better understanding of what it is. I may not have the whole picture. I don't think any of us ever do while we're here. I think we only have so much information, and then we grow and learn as we get older. But I do have a better understanding, and I'm in a much different place than where I was. So I just want to say that, because, like I said, this is really to empower you to take your power back, and that if anything does happen to you, in, you know, for example, similar to what I had or even worse, you do have full control over your own life. And it's just being aware of that, really. So, okay, I'm not going to rabbit on anymore. I'm just going to get straight into the first topic, and I'm just going to do one each video, because yeah, they're quite unique, and I don't want to cram loads into one video and make it a very long video. So the first one was in my mid-20s that I'm sharing today, and this one was very unique. And yeah, it really did, it scared me on some level at the time when I was going through it, but at the same time I was fascinated. absolutely intrigued by it because it was something that I couldn't explain. So I was working, I was living in a place called Hampshire in England at the time. I was working away from home. I'd not long left the military, so I'd come out of the army about a year before. I was renting a room in this lady's house, and the house was near to my job at that time. And I didn't really know, well, I knew very little about her or her family. I obviously was just renting a room, and I hadn't long been there actually. And I came down with some sort of cold, but it obviously had sort of signs of flu because I was getting hot sweats. And so I actually rang in sick that particular morning. And I was literally, I was in bed and I could hardly move. I had my phone near me. I phoned and just said I wasn't well and, phoning sick. So I did. And as I put the phone down and I just relaxed kind of into the bed and just, anybody knows when you feel rough, you feel rough. And something then started to happen. And it was around, so obviously it was about sort of 8, 9 in the morning. It was quite early because I had to phone in sick. And as I was lying there, I could suddenly feel something around my hip area and my thigh on my right side. It was really strange because what happened, I started to feel like I couldn't move my body. Now, I could move my arms, but the trunk of my body was almost like I was stuck. I was paralyzed. But I wasn't paralyzed, but it was like it took a massive amount of energy to be able to move. And that's what I mean by it was like a dead weight. As I kind of felt into it, I was kind of open to the spiritual and the non-physical to some degree, because I always had a bit of an interest in it. And I had a friend that used to do the tarot and she was a medium. So I knew a little bit about things, but nothing enough in this area that I could explain what was going on. So as I lay there and I started feeling this pressure around my hip and my thigh area, I was open enough to kind of decide, well, what is it? So I just kind of relaxed into it to feel and see if I could sense anything. But the more I kind of relaxed into it, the more the pressure began. And the best way of describing it was it felt like something started to bite into me. And I couldn't feel like physical teeth, but I could feel this clamping sensation and a pressure around my hip and my thigh, to the degree that it got so uncomfortable that I had to try and, which makes no sense, I know, push whatever it was away. So I used my hand to push what I thought was there, because obviously, there was nothing physically there. I couldn't see anything there, but I could feel it. And the more I did nothing, the more it got really quite painful. So I literally put my hand towards it and pushed it away. And as I did so, I could feel something around my hands. And it was kind of like it was a solid object, but it moved. It moved around my hands. It was almost like it's really hard to explain, but it's like a bubble of energy that when you push it, it's not one form, it moves, but it does have mass in the sense that you can feel it. And as I pushed it away, it moved away, but it also changed shape around my hands. So it was kind of almost like, and the way that I understand it now is it's kind of some kind of form of energy or ectoplasm or energy, but I couldn't physically see it. So I pushed it away, and logic tells you that if there's nothing there, that you don't need to push anything away. But at the time, I was in this very weakened state. I knew that I wasn't feeling great. I didn't have very good energy because I was quite low. I was fighting this virus. And when I pushed it away, it came back. And the same thing happened again. And so again, I used my right hand to push it away. And as I did so, I tried to feel a bit more what it was. And still, it's almost like I had this image in my head of this clear bubble of energy. And as I was pushing into it, it would change shape. But I did this about 3 times. And in the end, I knew I had to try and sit up because whatever I was doing was not working. It kept coming back. Now, I was open to kind of ghosts and spirits back then, in the sense that I wasn't completely closed to the idea. It fascinated me. I didn't really understand it all back then. I have a better understanding now. I'm not saying I understand everything perfectly now, but I have a much better understanding now. But back then it was all very new and very, very strange. Never experienced anything like this. So it was quite frightening on some level as well. And I literally, and it took every ounce of energy, and I'm not even exaggerating on this, every ounce of energy for me to sit up and to literally get myself back into some kind of power over my own body. That was how I saw it. And when I finally managed to do that, and it took me a good couple of minutes because my energy levels were so low, and like I said, I felt like I was very restricted with any movement with my body apart from my hands, my arms. So eventually I managed to sit myself up, and I just sat there kind of in shock for a couple of minutes because whatever it was basically had gone. And the first thing I did was I got straight on the phone to my friend who was a medium, and she was the mother of my best friend at the time, and she was the only one that I could think of that I could speak to because, it really freaked me out. Now, one of the things that came to me whilst it was happening, and I kind of dismissed it because, again, back then it was all very new and I didn't really trust my intuition as much as I should have back then. Like a lot of us do, you get kind of things coming in, but you don't necessarily go with them or you dismiss it. And in my mind, I was thinking it's a dog. And I'm like, well, why would a dog in spirit be trying to bite me? What's the attraction? And I'd heard that, people that were more sort of psychic or spiritual, maybe on some level or aware of it, that they could attract things in a bit more. But I don't know. Again, it's food for thought and room for speculation there. But anyway, so I phoned my friend and I told her what happened, and she immediately tuned in to the energy. And she told me that she saw a black dog, a small dog, and that it was just being playful. She said it wasn't being aggressive. It was trying to get my attention because it saw that I had some ability to be able to feel it on some level, which I did, but it was really uncomfortable. So she said it was the owner's dog and that it had passed over and it was basically coming through to, send goodwill to the owner. Now, to your average person, obviously, most people probably would go, what on earth is going on here? This is a load of rubbish. But because I was open to it, I took it on board and I knew that my friend was being genuine. And because I also was very interested in the subject and also got through in my own mind that it was a dog, I kind of went with it. So I thanked my friend and I kind of felt more at peace with that. And it was interesting because after it happened, my energy came back, not to the full degree because I was unwell, but enough for me to get out of bed and to go downstairs. And I had a word with the owner, who's a lady, and I asked her, I said, have you ever had any pets? I didn't kind of give her all the information because I needed proof myself. I needed to understand more what was going on. And I do believe in questioning everything. Even to this day, I will not accept anything without questioning it and ruling out things first. And I think that's healthy. Certainly, unless you're fully tuned and 100% without a doubt, I think it's healthy. It's good to be discerning. So I put that question to her, and she did actually turn around and say, yes, I used to have a black dog, and blah de blah de blah. So basically, she confirmed the information that I was given by my friend. Although the experience was very unnerving at the time because it never happened, and I immediately felt like I was under attack from something, it really showed me how we can misinterpret things. And that was a really, really good example of, and for me, of how spirit can form into physical form around us. Some people see them, and I have had sightings before, which I'll share in another video. But this particular one was quite profound because it was a physical experience, and I did have other physical experiences again, which I'll share in another video. But yeah, I've wanted to share this. So my kind of overall message from this would be, for those that may be going through something similar or have had a similar experience, just know I know there are good and bad spirits out there, and it's not always a pleasant experience. And that even if, like, my experience could have been, the opposite, it could have been like a malevolent spirit. And yes, there are both. But what I want to just say really is that you have full control over what happens to you. Now, for me at that particular time, my energy levels were low because I was ill. And I found that over the years that when I've been in a more vulnerable place, whether it's through stress, depression, whether it's through illness, I have been more susceptible to lower energies and, let's just say, not so nice things around. This example was obviously not a negative energy, but it felt negative at the time because of the pain I was feeling when it was biting into me. But the power I'm just trying to say to people is that, if ever you find yourself in a situation where you're not sure what it is, all you need to do, and if I'd have known it back then, I would have done it, but I didn't. And, it was another lesson, one of many. But all you need to do is just say out loud, and you can do this however you like, or whatever feels real for you. Just say that I am a sovereign being and I take my power back, and I do not give consent to anything being in my space or my energy or in my field. I completely release you now. You have no power or control over me. And you can say something along those lines. You don't have to be quite so in depth. You can, yes, if you really want to be quite blunt and you feel unhappy with something coming towards you, you can tell it where to go. And that's absolutely fine. It's really about knowing that nothing can come in your space unless you allow it on some level. And when you know that, and it's taken me years and years and years to realize this, the problem is when we go into fear mode, we attract things in. When we stay in fear mode, it's very hard to shift anything because whatever that is will come in and feed on that fear. And again, it's not about bringing fear into this. It's just about you reclaiming your power and knowing that nothing can harm you unless you, on some level, have given away your power. So when you are in a moment where you're feeling fearful, where you're feeling low, you can do this in many different ways. Just surround yourself in a white light. Just picture it in your mind. Place your bubble of protection around you. or just know from the depth of your soul that you are fine and nothing will come near you. There's lots of different techniques, and I might share them over time that you can use. But the most powerful is just what I said earlier, which is speaking out loud and saying in so many terms, out of my space. They have to, whatever around you has to honour you and your wishes. If you have, sometimes there are experiences where we may have agreed something or to experience something, which I'll go into a lot more in depth in another video, but we've agreed to experience something in this life and with a certain spirit or entity or just a certain experience, you still have control over that. Nothing in your life around you can influence you if you do not wish it to. So I just want to make that really, really clear, that you have the power within you through your words, through your actions, and also through your everyday thoughts and feelings. So if you are putting the energy into fear because you're afraid that something else has power over you, then you are going to be a little bit more vulnerable there. And we all have those moments, we all have our fears in our life. So it's not kind of say that you can't deal with everything. But what I'm saying is that to bring it back into your awareness regularly, that you do have control over your life. And a lot of it is around how you think, how you feel. For anyone that's maybe experienced something more extreme, because there are always different extremes out there, you can always seek advice from an expert in that area if you're unsure. What I'm sharing with you is really more on how to take your empowerment back so that you are able to manage your own circumstances and situations. Sometimes, though, I understand that some things can be extreme and too much for us in that moment, and that's absolutely fine. It took me years and years to gain what I've kind of now come to understand, and I'm sharing it now because I feel like I'm in a much better place to be able to share it. And, what works for me might not work for everybody, but I know a lot of others that also do this. So yeah, I hope this has been helpful, but it's really just, like I said, remember that nothing can harm you unless you give consent on some level. Even if you're not aware of how you're giving consent, there will be something there, a fear, something that you haven't let go of that you need to maybe look into. Okay, well, I'm going to finish off on this one today, guys. I hope this has been helpful. I'd be really interested to know in the comments below if any of you have had any similar experiences or something even slightly different. It's really good to share this information because it does help a lot of people. But on that note, I'm going to finish this one and I will come back to you soon with another experience. Take care, everyone. Bye.